In this series of tutorials, we're going to take a look at the making of this animation.
How a Canadian boy becomes a man. On his 13th birthday, every Canadian boy receives a log of Canadian cedar and a pocket knife. With the pocket knife, he carves from the log a canoe. Then, following in the trail of Alexander Mackenzie, he paddles from one coast to the other, including a brief portage for a double-double. Now you are a Canadian man.
Along the way, we're going to take a look at some of the bigger ideas that go into creating an animation like this. First, we're going to start looking at things like script and storyboards. Next, we're going to look at character design and animation. Particularly, we're going to look at character design using Adobe Illustrator and animation using a variety of techniques. But we will touch on Adobe's Character Animator program, which is, I think, the easiest way to do character animation. We'll also look at how to create a 3D environment in After Effects from a layered Illustrator file. We'll then use some virtual lights to create some drama within that scene. And then we're going to take a camera and reveal that scene over time. Along the way, we're also going to talk about doing some audio recording. I'm going to open up the original After Effects file. You can see that I have my master composition open. And as you can see, I really don't have that many layers. In fact, I'm going to come over here to my Shy button and turn off the visibility of some of these layers. What I'm left with are just the main compositions for this animation. You'll notice that there is a appropriately named first section here. If I click on that and grab my timeline, you can see that I have the elements that come up first, the type and the character waving. This first section is actually quite long. What distinguishes this first section is that there aren't any camera movements. All the movement happens within the frame. As I scrub through here, you can see that I get to a point where there is this composition that enters into our screen, the map animation. If I scrub past that, though, you can see that as that composition exits the screen, I now have this composition showing up in behind it. This is the paddling across Canada section. Now this composition differs considerably. You can see it is a 3D layer. All of this section of the animation is part of that paddling across Canada composition. But then as the plaid background comes into the scene, you can see that we have a little bit of a separation of the face from the character as it comes in larger and the beard grows on. That is the final composition here that I've called beard growing, and there is the entire animation. As you can see, it really consists of just these four compositions. If I turn off the shied layers, all the other layers are the audio layers down here, and as we'll see that there are a couple of overlay layers that provide the film grain as well as the background audio. Now I've provided the source files so you can follow along. You can open up this file here in After Effects and it will link to the files within this footage folder here. If I reveal that, you can see that there are a number of folders. I've tried to keep this fairly organized. As you can see, if I open up my Illustrator Assets folder, all the Illustrator files exist within this file. If you wanted to open up any of the Illustrator files, for example, the Paddling Across Canada file, you can see is right here. And that file looks like this. I encourage you to open up the Illustrator files to take a look at how they're organized. You can see that all the elements have been separated out onto their own layers, which is crucial for animation. But even more importantly, I've named the layers. We'll talk a little bit more about how to set up these layers in a later video.